People who grew up poor, what did you used to think was normal? For my school spirit week, they had a thrift shop day where most everyone dressed in old ratty clothes, all the weirdest stuff they could find in a thrift shop. Needless to say, as someone whose clothes were 80% secondhand, it was an eye-opener. A bit crappy of the school to have a day like that. Everyone in the house going into the kitchen to see what groceries were brought home and being so excited as if it was Christmas. Also, now that my family is doing a lot better than when I was growing up, we find ourselves hoarding food, stocking up on canned goods, buying things in bulk on sale, as if we are waiting for those rainy days to hit again. Does anyone else experience this? Everyone in the house going into the kitchen to see what groceries were brought home and being so excited as if it was Christmas. That was me, but I was just fat. I was totally shocked when I learned that some people go out to eat more than once a year. Also when I learned there are people who don't skip meals. I was shocked to find out people eat out on a regular day, like not anyone's birthday or any other celebration. I remember being so happy when my mom rewarded me with fast food fried chicken meal for school achievements in elementary school. When I was an undergraduate, my sister told me my mom would skimp on their meals just to buy me those. As a kid, I didn't know there were multiple settings on a water heater. I assumed everybody had to wait an hour or so after somebody uses the shower to get some hot water going. I am embarrassed to admit that I recently found out about continuous flow of hot water 5 years ago. I was 25. I spent the weekend at my then future in-law's house. The conversation went something like this. Fiance, I'm going to shower before dinner. Me, but your brother just got out 5 minutes ago. Fiance explains how they never run out of hot water. My mind was blown. In my house, showering was a well-planned event for exactly this reason. I grew up thinking food was a scarcity. Whenever we went anywhere, my mom would tell me and my sisters to not accept food from people. She didn't want our hunger to be someone else's burden. Now that I'm in college and go places, like my boyfriend's family's house, it's seen as rude to refuse food. My automatic response is to politely refuse even if I hadn't eaten all day. Even after years and now being able to mostly get by myself, it still sometimes feels like being hungry is a normal state. I sometimes still forget to eat. My stomach will tell me I'm hungry, but because it was so ingrained in me that hunger is normal, I typically won't realize I'm hungry until I get a headache. This, completely. I still forget to eat and my fridge and freezer have so much food. I'm just not used to having money, let alone the luxury to take care of myself. Going on vacation to the local hotel in our hometown, we got to play in the pool and order delivery pizza, a rare treat, and we always had a blast. I love these vacations. They were the highlight of my childhood in many ways. Pepperoni pizza and bottled Coke never tasted so good as when you had been swimming for 4 hours straight. The combo of pizza and hotel and pool chlorine smell brings me back. I never saw my parents because they worked so much. When I was in elementary school, we lived in an apartment above the bar they owned. My time with them was spent working in the kitchen, doing homework at the bar, and then walking upstairs to put myself to bed. We eventually moved and I was always alone. From Wednesday morning through Saturday, I would wake and walk to school, come home, make dinner, do homework, and go to bed with no contact from an adult. This continued throughout secondary school. From 6th through 12th grade, I was so incredibly lonely, but it was normal for me. I can't imagine how my world would have been different if they didn't need to work so much to scrape by. Never traveling out of the country or state. Kids always talked about where they traveled, like during break, summer vacation for example. I think it was a grade 6 project in September and we had to draw maps to geographic locations where we went that summer. My map was just of the town and going to the grocery store and church and stuff. Hopefully it made my teacher rethink that project for the future. Growing up, whenever winter came, we used to pull all of the blankets out of the closet and bundle up at night. We didn't have working heat and most nights it would go way below freezing. I always looked forward to it though and would love getting gathered up in a million blankets and sit next to the space heater. I also shared a small room with both my sisters and slept on one twin bed with them. My brothers did the same in the room across from us. Skipping lunch dinner periodically so one of us could have all 3 meals. Like, Tuesdays and Thursday and Sunday I didn't eat dinner, but my mom and little brother did. And every other day my mom didn't eat lunch or dinner, so me and my brother could. I only started skipping meals for my mom because she was getting physically sick from not eating. My mom having to buy a new 3000 car every couple of years because our previous one broke down and we don't have enough to repair it. Coming home to see the water electricity were off. Having to buy jugs of water at the dollar store so we could flush the toilet. Leaving a giant hole in the entryway where water had leaked through because we just couldn't afford to repair it. Not having heat AC. Having to bath with water from jugs and waking up and realizing our washing machine had broken down again, so I'd rub my dirty clothes with washing detergent to try and mask the stale scent clothing gets when it hasn't been washed to this day. People making comments about something smelling weird, even if not directed at me, makes me have major anxiety attacks. Only having one pair of super cheap shoes that we'd have to wear until they fell apart. The amount of times I tripped over the soles of my own shoes in my HS hallways was ridiculous. I thought I grew up poor until I read this. Holy freaking crap. Only having lunch at school, like that being the only meal of the day. I learned when I was like 10. Then I started saving my food and bringing it home so my brother and sister could eat. Oh man, this just hurt my heart. You are such a good sibling. Hope you and your family are in a better place now. Cleaning your plate. I honestly still do. If I pay for food I'm gonna eat it all, and if not, I will save it. So many people I've eaten with will leave food and it's just disposed of. Heck, my stepdad didn't realize that for 14 years. Leftovers? Trash nah. My mother single-handedly raised 2 boys. We don't waste crap. I get made fun of by my in-laws for always finishing my plate of food, no matter what. They say things like you'd eat crap on toast if it was served up to you. No sir, I just eat what I'm served and don't complain. I still think the concept of family road trips is super weird, like it's only something I know from movies. I didn't leave my province until I was 22 with my friend. When I went to rich kids' houses, I was in awe of the kitchen pantry. You mean, you can walk into it? How many different cereals do you have? What's Costco? Oh crap, almost forgot. Going to pawn shops. I had a friend who was from a very wealthy family and I almost died when I saw they not only had several types of cereal, they were each poured into separate Tupperware containers. It was like the height of luxury to me. 7 to 14 years old, going to school then going to work, after school delivering newspapers and also collecting their payments. Never a day off. One time we had so much snow that the post office closed, yet my little butt had to deliver. Latchkey kid at 10 years old because parents worked. Being a girl, I was also responsible for cooking dinner for my father and older brothers and other household chores. I was also expected to excel at school. I did. My schedule was so strict. One thing I hated the most were science fairs. All the rich kids had so much help and confidence. Then there was me with a piece of cardboard, loads of stress and anxiety. The science fair thing, holy crap, I hated that. When I was about 15, my family went from being dirt poor to closer to stable but still under the poverty line. But from 415, these were things my family did that I didn't realize were abnormal. Not seeing my parents for 10-14 hours out of my day because they were working as hard as they could manage. Starting work at the age of 10 because my parents owned a business and couldn't afford employees. Saving every last scrap of leftover food and using it to make something else. Finding my friends' lives of cool toys and yearly vacations to be luxurious and fairy tale-esque. Now I'm living relatively comfortably, but man, if these aren't still something I think about. Shopping at thrift shops. It wasn't until I got to high school that no one else shopped there, or the fact that a lot of our stuff came second-hand markets and things like that. It was like this for a long time. Only poor people shopped at thrift stores. Now it's in fashion, so tons of wealthy people go there looking to score on something neat. I always thought knowing about bills and the bill's amount was normal for a kid. Also knowing the rent amount. I went over to a well-off friend's nice home and asked what was their rent amount was. LMAO. I thought everyone was supplied breakfasts at elementary school, and the people who didn't eat it just didn't have breakfast for some reason. I didn't understand breakfast until my mom married a guy who was rich enough to rent a house. I knew it wasn't normal, but we didn't have heat or air conditioning in my house. We used a wood stove in the oven to heat the first floor, and the second floor was usually freezing. When the weather turned hot, we were just hot. My mom didn't have a bedroom for a couple years. Our place had two. I got one and my sisters got the other. It never occurred to me where she slept. Living room. That is called mother's love, L. Giving you your own rooms instead of making you share. I hope all is well with your family now. Getting gifts from the Salvation Army. Layaway for school clothes. Fares for free school supplies. Mom and dad working 2 jobs. Sharing everything. I'm female, if it matters. My family's budget fluctuated a lot. In our poorer years, I thought it was normal to wear my brother's hand-me-downs and make them last as long as possible, until my pants were so short that 3 or so inches of my ankles were showing. Go to make those clothes last 10 years at least. Also, when my dad started making enough money that he could splurge and buy steak, I thought steak was nasty. Turns out, my dad could only afford the cheapest, gnarliest cut of steak possible. Basically, I would chew and chew only to have it turn to meat gum in my mouth. It was totally inedible. So I wondered why all the wealthier families liked steak so much. LOLI. Also a girl. Didn't think it was weird that I had to wear my brother's hand-me-down underwear. Not me, but my dad grew up dirt poor in India. We're upper class in the US now. He would tell me how he would get shoes. Not new shoes, just shoes. So India is primarily a Hindu nation and there are temples everywhere. People leave their shoes and sandals in front of the temple before entering in order to not track dirt into the temple. So my dad would go to a temple to pray. He would ask God for a pair of shoes and just walk out with someone else's shoes that fit. Rinse and repeat. Coming home from school to find that our water or electricity was turned off and my dad rushing home to turn it on himself, which is illegal. Bartering. My parents had a small print shop and they would trade for things because they could get more than if they paid cash. That one lady in the neighborhood who would watch all the kids. Not a daycare or anything, just an old lady who was at home so the parents would have their kids go there after school. Living in a tent. Buying second-hand clothes and passing them down to my pocket younger sister when I outgrew them. Always repairing clothes. Spending time around the welding yard where my dad worked because he had no other place to put us. Things worked out. My mom started her own company and my dad got a job at Ubisoft. He does 3D modeling for Far Cry now. Sister is a dog walker and married to a millionaire developer manager at Shopify, and I make good money in business development. I don't think many poor families get that lucky though. I'm really happy for you and your family. Hard work this time paid off. Hand-me-downs making their way through the entire family, not just sibling to sibling, like we were wearing clothes from my mom's younger first cousins, 10 plus years older than me and my siblings. I wore a lot of 80s fashions as a 90s kid. We got big bags of hand-me-downs from our neighbors. When I was young I thought that was just a thing you did and they were just being nice. Parents fighting and physically assaulting each other while expecting their kid to do well at school and beating the living heck out of him if grades go south. I was poor, but my parents were always good to each other and us. I thought mayo sandwiches were normal until I found out other things are supposed to accompany the mayo. Wearing a clothing more than once. I once heard a girl saying, at school, that she's disgusted someone wore the same shirt for 2 days. Buying clothes only once in a while, a year or two for kids. Like I honestly do not remember when my parents would even buy them for us. We'd get them from people and yes, we'd like and wear them. Until a guy decided to help and opened a shop for people who can't afford. All rejected clothing but really cheap and most are really good, if not your style. So since I started to work, I bought my own there and it hit me I haven't had a new t-shirt in really long. Repairing whatever electronic device or anything at all to make them reusable. My father is an electronic technician who's tried his hand at many jobs while trying to find his way, so he basically can do everything. One thing I love about him, he'd even fabricate some of our furnitures. My brother's bunk bed for example. but most of our furnitures are just repaired. It's only recently that we started to buy our own appliances. So pretty much, most of our things are like 15-20 years old lol. From our computer to our shower, all repaired. My laptop was most likely the first device we bought from an actual store. I'm not even poor now and I wear my work shirts twice and the same pants all week. Kids don't understand how horrible that basket of dirty clothes is at the end of the week lol. Dad not being around, never going on vacations, never going to festivals, carnivals, or fairs, wearing hand-me-downs and not thinking about it. Yup, I don't realize till I was a bit older that a lot of people get new clothes every school year and don't have any handing downs. And I don't like it a lot when I was little, but it was always better when my dad wasn't around. He would make home like heck for my brothers and I. When we were very young, my sister and I didn't know you could take toys home from Walmart. My parents would let us play in the toy aisle for a little while, and when it was time to go, we put everything back and went home. We never asked for the toys or threw a fit because as far as we knew, the toys permanently stayed at the store for kids to play with while they were there. We're not poor, but I don't buy my kids toys when we go out to stores. If they don't expect it, they won't throw a fit over not getting a toy every time we go to a store. They have way too many toys at home, mostly gifts from friends and family already. Riding the bus everywhere. My mom not buying food for herself then taking small bites from mine. I would get mad at her. Now that I'm grown I see she did a great sacrifice and I'm so grateful. Going to my grandma's house I would have so much fun, but she would feed us and she was our babysitter, but I just had fun there. My dad was a deadbeat who was never in the picture. My life was the same way. You never really know how strong your mother is until you look back on your childhood as an adult. I'm still in high school but apparently wearing the same pair of shoes every day. Saw someone else at school get made fun of because they only ever wear one pair. Annoyed the heck out of me. Not everyone has enough money to buy 7 different pairs of shoes. Somebody actually bullied someone for wearing the same pair of shoes every day. Like, are you freaking kidding me? That's like bullying someone for wearing the same sweatshirt or hoodie. Like, how frick you for not spending $200 plus on a pair of shoes that aren't gonna fit you in a year. Jesus man. I used to eat frozen french fries till like they were popsicles to fit in with all the normal kids who could afford real popsicles. Never having anything other people had, even though we were apparently all the same. I had about the bare minimum spent on me to keep me alive. Going on a holiday meant driving 2-3 hours to stay with relatives. Being robbed happened often and I thought that was normal. Eating fast food was a rare occurrence saved for birthdays. We eat one meal a day. Normal is your bills are paid and your rent is paid. If that means you live on PB&J and ramen the rest of the month, that's what you do. Is that means you eat one meal a day, that's what you do, that's normal. I'm 60 and as a small child I lived with my grandparents for a couple of years on a small farm in the middle of nowhere. I have used an outhouse. Which was worse? Winter you froze your butt off, or summer where you often felt something hairy walking on your hind end, a telephone attached to the wall with a crank, and later we had a party line where all your neighbors could listen in on your telephone calls at will. No bike but an old wagon that had been owned by my stepdad when he was a kid, and nearly all my clothes had been handmade by my grandma. On the other hand, we had a giant garden and everything got canned, so all our food was completely homemade and delicious, including ice cream, and she and I would regularly go looking for wild raspberries, asparagus, horseradish, and rhubarb. Everything was so fresh. One of my duties was catching a hen and holding it while grandma chopped its head off. I'd wait until it stopped running around and take it to the basement where she'd pluck it and then made chicken noodle soup for that evening's supper. I was thinking about exactly this today because I need milk and I am afraid to go to the market because I fear there will not be any available. In Southern California, chatting with a colleague, I was telling them about my grandparents' farm. They raised cattle and had a dairy and grew everything. Fruits, vegetables, all fresh, seasonal, and the most wonderful meals ever. Only owning one pair of pants and shoes. I still generally live like this now. Actually, once you get into a laundry routine, you learn to deal. I never thought that I was poor, but reading these comments made me realize that I might have grown up poor. My parents just never made me realize that. Using laundry detergent, dish soap, bar soap or whatever kind of soap you scrape together to wash your hair. Picking fruit from the trees and bushes next to the sidewalk and canning it. Bringing home blown mushrooms from the Safeway dumpster and drying them under the wood stove to use in soups. Mom getting your Christmas gift second hand from the flea market. Getting your school clothes second hand from the flea market. Powdered milk. Lots of pots of soup. All year round. Saving wrapping paper and boughs from birthday parties we went to so that we'd have something to wrap our gifts in. Mom sleeping in the living room so me and my brother could have our own rooms. Bringing peanut butter on bread and sliced carrots or celery to school for lunch. Every day. Collecting aluminum cans from people's recycling bins to cash and to have the $2 to go to the school dance. I forage fruit and vegetables from unpicked spots, plus actual wild plants, and stuff people throw away, even now, when I'm no longer particularly poor. I'm not really poor, but when I went to my friend's wealthy house, I was shocked that he had a home cooked meal every night. This happened to me too. They had milk, steak, baked potatoes with sour cream and butter. I had never had sour cream on a baked potato and I kept asking for more milk and ate all my steak. Their daughter picked at all her food. I was in heaven. Adding water to the little bit of soap, shampoo, conditioner left in the bottle to make it last. LOL. My mom would take a bunch of ramen noodle packages and make one big soup for the family, putting patches on holes in our clothes. That people can buy more than 2 of something at a time. I was very shocked to learn this when I got my first job as a teen. I looked at people who would come to the cash register and ask them if they accidentally grabbed more than they originally intended to. They would reply with no or something like that. Needless to say, I was shocked. Edit. I know this sounds stupid, but I grew up exceedingly poor. Like, barely able to buy food every month. My dad was raising me on a social security check by himself. Got a scholarship to play sports at a fancy private school. No one in my class had ever been to a laundromat. It blew my freaking mind that people had their own washing and drying machines. Eating at random times depending on how much food and money was left. There's people that actually have meals like in the movies, and they eat it with their families 3 times a day. Insanity. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.